I'm sure you've been hearing a lot about Greenland and it's protesting the visits of Usha and JD Vance. I mean, who wouldn't protest a visit from Usha and JD Vance? So what happened is Greenland just does not have a big population. I think polar bears outnumber people. Actually, I don't know if that's true. It probably isn't, but I kind of like to think it is. Um, Almost everybody in Greenland got out in the streets to protest the unwelcome visit from these two miscreants who were sent there for what reason? I don't know, to get them used to the idea that Donald has imperial ambitions and wants to take them over. Sure, that'll help. I mean, honestly, it's sort of like the best way to get somebody not to agree to something is have JD Vance make the argument. So a local reporter questioned people because in the capital of Nuuk, Greenland, envoys from the Trump regime went house to house just to kind of take the temperature of how people were feeling about the visit. And as the reporter told us, their answer to a person was no, 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 no. Cool. So Greenland stood up, this tiny place in the middle of the Arctic, stood up, said, no way, get out of here. This is our home. We are sovereign. I mean, they're not entirely sovereign, but they are not beholden to the United States in any way whatsoever. And the country that actually has sovereignty over Greenland agrees. Now, if that can happen, other things like that should be able to happen too. For example, extraordinarily powerful institutions like, I don't know, say, for example, just off the top of my head, Columbia University should be able to stand up to any pressure put upon it by the Trump regime. So, too, should some of these enormously powerful white shoe law firms. And yet, they're capitulating, which leaves it to smaller, potentially less powerful institutions and individual human beings with very little power and resources at all to do the real work. So, everybody, let's be more like Greenland. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this evening's episode of Mary Trump Live. It's wonderful to be here with you. We made it. It's Friday. See, I got the day right. Probably because it's Friday. Anyway, let's start here. Donald actually walked back a threat to double steel tariffs to 50% because that would be sane. Tensions, of course, still remain high with Canada, our former ally and still neighbor to the north. And Canada has threatened up to $21 billion in retaliatory tariffs because other tariffs are still in place. The newly elected Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, and Donald, well, poor guy, he had to meet with Donald today. Donald posted this on his failing social media platform. Quote, I just finished speaking with Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada. It was an extremely productive call. We agree on many things. And we'll be meeting immediately after Canada's upcoming election to work on elements of politics, business, and all other factors that will end up being great for both the United States of America and Canada. Thank you for your attention in this matter. Unquote. Thank you for your attention. What? Is he like Bartleby the Scrivener or something? What is he talking about? Anyway, he didn't write that text or tweet or whatever it is. He did it. And was it productive? I'm sorry, I can't do Canadian. I tried. I'm not entirely sure it was productive because there, see, what Donald doesn't understand is there are metrics that do things like measure things. He's stupid. The Dow plunged 758 points. That's a lot of points. And the S&P 500 dropped another 2%, which was triggered by fears over Donald's sweeping new 25% auto tariffs and rising inflation. And that's the problem. He may have decided not to do the absolutely suicidal thing of doubling tariffs to 50%, but there are still very high tariffs in place on other items. Donald announced a tariff hike on March 26th, vowing more tariffs by April 2nd, which last I checked is like next week. And this is despite warnings from economists that import taxes the warnings of economists that import taxes fuel inflation by raising consumer prices. Even the, let's call them what they are, completely unobjective hacks at Fox State TV could not spin this one. Take a look.
So much woo, folks. This is a tough way to end the week if you're long the market. If you're long gold, you're happy, but Dow is losing about 724, the S&P down 113, the NASDAQ down 484. That will do it for us.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Kudlow. I'm Larry Kudlow. So markets crash over 700 points today after a bad inflation report, more tariff confusion. Oh, and by the way, Republicans really going to raise taxes? That could have done it.
Joe Biden, how dare you? Yeah, even Fox couldn't say that with a straight face. They actually blame Republicans. All right. And implicitly Donald, because who else is causing the confusion and the inflation? He is. Our former allies are not just playing along in the fact that they may just feel sorry for us. Please feel sorry for us. I mean, some of us are okay. I promise you. And we're going to do everything in our power to set this right to the extent that we can. Yesterday, Canada launched digital billboards in 13 U.S. states and D.C., warning Americans that, quote, tariffs are a tax on your grocery bill, unquote, targeting Donald's escalating trade war, which means that there are billboards around the country that know more about this stuff than Donald Trump does. Play the clip.
As you drive the streets of Central Florida, at a glance, some billboards might have you doing a double take. In bold letters, one says, tariffs are a tax on hardworking Americans. Another says, tariffs are a tax at the gas pump. And who's paying for these billboards? It's our neighbors to the north, Canada.
Your first word response was,
wow.
The message? Retailers say a high tariff on Canadian goods coming to the U.S. will translate into higher prices.
We just can't afford to absorb higher costs without passing them along to consumers. And so this is Canada's way of simply trying to remind Americans who really pays for this tariff.
Which is something they should have known all along, but they keep getting lied to by the guy who's doing this in the first place. My one response is, cool. The campaign is part of Canada's push to counter misinformation and educate Americans about how tariffs raise prices on fuel, food, and other essentials. Economists at Oxford Economics blame the market crash on investor realization that Donald's trade war threats are real and will harm the U.S. economy. Now we're just coming to the conclusion that they're real? I mean, it's been a couple of months, guys. In fact, it's been 9 weeks. 9 weeks. It's been real since the very beginning. Core inflation rose last month, and 2 out of 3 Americans now expect unemployment to worsen, which is the worst number since 2009. And do you remember what was going on in 2009? We were recovering from all sorts of horrific economic horrors. Automaker stocks and consumer brands like Ford down 2.6%, Toyota down 2.8%, Lululemon down 15%, although I think it has to do with other things as well, and Oxford Industries down 3.1%, all of them taking major hits, citing economic anxiety and collapsing consumer sentiment. Because there's a lot of that going around. The uncertainty, the chaos. Markets hate uncertainty, and they really hate chaos. And you know who else hate those things? Americans. Americans, consumers. Because how do you know? How do you know how to plan? You don't. The Trump regime, this should surprise nobody at all, asked the Supreme Court today for emergency permission to resume deporting Venezuelan migrants under the Alien Enemies Act, a wartime law not invoked since World War II that's been on the books since 1798 under the umbrella of the Alien Sedition Acts. In its emergency filing, the Justice Department argued that the president, not the court, has the constitutional authority to conduct national security operations, calling Judge James Boasberg's ruling an overreach. Yes, they actually had the audacity to say that it's the judge who's overreaching, not them. The Trump regime insists it followed a rigorous process in identifying targets, though it offered no public evidence. And even if that were the case, which it's not, they still decided that they didn't have to follow due process. So the court has asked plaintiffs represented by the ACLU to respond by Tuesday, and the D.C. Circuit upheld the temporary block earlier this week And the administration is now turning to the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority on the Supreme Court for relief, which, sadly, because it is a corrupt and illegitimate supermajority, I cannot say with any confidence that they will rule as they should, which is to say that they will rule in favor of blocking the Trump regime from continuing essentially to target people and arrest them erroneously and then deny them due process. I cannot say. I know for a fact that Donald already has 2 votes. He has the 2 votes of the most corrupt of corrupt justices, Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas. So let's watch this carefully, because we know that this corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court will be the end of the line for every single lawsuit that has already been filed in federal court and the dozens and dozens and dozens of those that will follow. Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul has filed a lawsuit against Elon Musk and his political group, America PAC, accusing them of attempting to buy votes in the state's Supreme Court election. The lawsuit centers on Musk's promise to award 2 $1 million prizes to voters attending a Sunday rally in support of Republican-backed candidate Judge Brad Schimel. State law prohibits offering anything of value to induce voting, and Kaul is seeking a court order to block the giveaway. I mean, this is brazen. It's brazen. Though Musk deleted the original post on Twitter, he later doubled down, saying the rally would now only be open to those who signed a political petition. But the lawsuit notes there's been no indication the cash giveaway has been canceled. The case has been initially signed to Judge Susan Crawford, Schimel's Democratic-backed opponent, who has, because she has integrity, recused herself. Now, Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito would not have recused themselves, and neither would have Donald's personal pocket judge, Aileen Cannon. So the case has been reassigned to Columbia County Judge Andrew Voigt. So this is obviously corrupt. It is illegal in this country to buy people's votes, and it is a slam dunk of a case. Like, there is literally no way you can interpret this differently. This is exactly what Elon Musk is doing, and he's actually buying votes for a specific candidate. Now, the question is anything going to happen? And this is where we continue to run into this problem with Musk. He has so much money. He has so much influence. Short-sighted politicians have allowed him so much leeway and have allowed him to acquire so much technology that he's in control of way too much. One person should not be in control of what Elon Musk is in control of. He owns something like half of the satellites that are in near Earth orbit. Half of them. He is in deals in countries that do not have the United States' best interest at heart. Oh, well, actually, he has deals with the United States, which also doesn't have the United States' best interest at heart. But you know what I'm saying? It's seriously problematic. And how do you hold such a person accountable? Well, we're going to have to find out if a ruling from a judge is going to do the trick. But since the election is on April 1st, I'm not really sure there's going to be too much that can be done. Turning now to a Russian medical researcher at Harvard University who is currently being held at a Louisiana immigration facility after her visa was revoked last month due to undeclared frog embryo samples found in her luggage, according to her lawyer in an interview with NBC News. I mean, was something wrong with these frogs? Was these the kind of frogs that Alex Jones is always going on about that are going to turn people gay? Like, what the fuck? Ksenia Petrova, who has been in the United States on a J-1 scholar visa since May 2023, is employed at Harvard. Her lawyer, Gregory Romanowski, stated that Petrova is challenging her potential deportation to Russia, fearing persecution and imprisonment. Why? Because of her protests against the war in Ukraine. Her previous arrest in Russia and social media activity, quote, will almost certainly assure a nice, hefty jail sentence for her, unquote, if she is deported back. Her attorney continues, quote, they find a scientific sample of frog embryos that she was bringing at the request of her principal investigator, her professor at Harvard, from the lab in France that they were collaborating with. She had that in her luggage and she did not declare it. Romanowski said CBP is supposed to impose 2 penalties for typical customs violations: forfeiture of the item and a fine of usually about $500. But no, this woman, this employee of Harvard University, has essentially been disappeared to a detention facility in Louisiana, far from anybody she knows and any comforts or familiarity. And are we okay with that? And why? Because she's a Russian protesting Russia's illegal invasion of what was once our ally, Ukraine. Do you know what kind of courage that takes? The kind of courage it would take a Russian to protest something Russia is doing? That is dangerous. That has serious, serious consequences. And we know this because we've seen it. Now, the question is this State Department so unhinged, so unmoored from humanity that they are going to send this woman back to conditions that would be unspeakable? Again, I don't know the answer because I think they're capable of anything. So it turns out that the White House takes the media and its responsibility to it very, very seriously. Because you know who's been added to the White House press pool? Right-wing so-called influencer Tim Pool, who admitted he was unknowingly, I think that's a matter for discussion, unknowingly paid by a Kremlin-backed media front during the 2024 election. Yeah, just months after being linked to a Russian disinformation operation, he is going to have a press pass to the White House press corps. This guy was paid $100,000 per episode to host a show for Tenet Media, a company secretly funded by Russian state media executives indicted last year for attempting to amplify domestic divisions in the United States, according to what used to be a good thing, the DOJ. Poole is denied knowingly working with Russia, calling himself a victim, but his content reportedly aligned closely with Kremlin messaging. Poole's inclusion in the administration's move to revoke the press corps' authority to select pool members, barring outlets like the Associated Press, while elevating influencers seen as sympathetic to the president. Yeah, it's a trend. And I just have to say, like, are you so arrogant as to believe that you actually think you deserve $100,000 per episode to spout your nonsense? It didn't occur to you to think that they were paying you for something else? I swear, it is the Dunning-Kruger effect that is going to kill us, probably. Because these people, they have no insight. They have no self-awareness. Their narcissism is so legion and so unfathomable to those of us who are grounded in reality and actually have some sense of who we are and what our limitations are, that they just cannot see the world for what it is. Especially, and I mean, I kind of have some sympathy for this, especially because if they did see the world for what it is and who they are in it, they would probably die of shame. That's a reasonable explanation. Remember, Donald had a little spat with the governor of Maine about Maine's approach to the trans athlete ban? Well, it turns out that Maine officials will not comply with the Trump regime's ban. The Trump regime said earlier this month that the Maine Department of Education, Maine Principals Association, and a high school are each in violation of the Title IX because of their participation of trans athletes. On March 27, 2025, Maine officials refused to comply with the demand to ban trans athletes from girls' sports, citing the Maine Human Rights Act. The U.S. Health and Human Services Department accused the state of violating Title IX and gave a 10-day ultimatum to adopt a federal ban. Greeley High School was singled out after a trans student won a girls' track event, prompting the investigation. Governor Janet Mills rebuked Donald's threat to pull funding, saying, quote, "We'll see you in court," unquote. The Maine Department of Education and school officials say they will allow state law and protect trans students' rights. Good for you. We need more of that. We need more of that everywhere. Looking at you, big white shoe law firms. Standing up isn't that hard if we all stand up together, right? And I think it's worth reminding people because the trans community is probably the most vulnerable community in this country right now. And the Trump regime, has an animus against trans people that is unspeakable. Trans people make up less than 1% of the population in this country. They do not have access to the kinds of power some scumbag like Donald Trump has. Trans athletes, trans female athletes, what percentage of the population do you think they comprise? I don't even know. It's so vanishingly small. I don't even think it's calculable. So they're talking about singling out one or two girls because they want to play sports. Oh, the audacity. We're talking about high school. We're not talking about professional sports. We're talking about high school students. We're talking about kids, and they don't care. They're going to go after them because they have a point to prove. Who cares if somebody gets hurt? Who cares if somebody gets killed? That's the kind of sociopathy we're dealing with constantly. Yesterday, Donald signed an executive order assigning Vice President J.D. Vance to eliminate Smithsonian exhibits or programs that the White House claims promote, quote, unquote, improper ideology, including support for aforementioned trans rights, systemic racism, or content that divides Americans based on race. Vance will lead efforts to slash funding for such exhibits in line with his long-held belief that progressive narratives, quote, make Americans easier to control, unquote, and, quote, ashamed of where we come from, unquote. We should be ashamed of where we come from. If we're white in this country and have never done the work and have never acknowledged, let alone atoned for our two original sins, the genocide of the native population and the kidnapping, enslavement, and potential genocide of an entire race of people, I'm ashamed of that. I didn't do it. I'm ashamed of it. I'm ashamed that this country has not evolved to the degree that we have atoned. We haven't even acknowledged it, which is one of the many, many reasons and one of the main reasons we are where we are right now. The Smithsonian had already begun rolling back diversity efforts in January 2025, shuttering its diversity office. Yep. Looking at you, University of Michigan, and implementing a federal hiring freeze after Republican pressure. Yeah, let's keep succumbing to that pressure because you know what works out really well for us? I mean, just ask Nazi Germany. Appeasement. Vance's crusade against critical race theory and historical honesty. Historical honesty. Oh, he's against historical honesty. I'm sorry. I misread that. I thought he was like saying that he believes in historical honesty. Well, in the Orwellian sense, he does. So his crusade, he believes, reflects the broader America First push to reshape public institutions into ideological tools of the Trump regime. Democrats, including Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, who needs to be primaried, not for this, but for her vote on the budget, warn that this is part of a dangerous trend where the regime is exerting political control over cultural and educational institutions, threatening 175 years of Smithsonian independence. And we could say the same thing about what is happening at the Kennedy Center, because if there's one person I want dictating how we engage in culture and art, it's Donald Trump. I mean, seriously, in my grandparents' house, there was a room that we spent most of our time. It was called the library, and it had no books in it. So, I trust his taste. Getting back to Greenland, Vance continued his greatness ways after a rocky road getting there, like a really rocky road to the extent that Greenland made it clear nobody wants him or his wife there. Greenland essentially said, we didn't invite you. We're not hosting you. So instead, he was reduced to visiting a United States military base in the Arctic Circle because that's pretty much the only place he could go without being welcome. I mean, I'm not suggesting that anybody at the military base wanted him there either, but they didn't have a choice. Vance delivered remarks during his visit to the base at Pawtucket, and this is what he had to say.
Well, the president said we have to have Greenland, and I think that we do have to be more serious about the security of Greenland. We can't just ignore this place. We can't just ignore the president's desires, but most importantly, we can't ignore what I said earlier, which is the Russian and Chinese encroachment in Greenland. We have to do more. We're simply saying to the people of Greenland, when the president says we've got to have Greenland, he's saying this island is not safe. A lot of people are interested in it. A lot of people are making a play. We know that America cares about the security of this island for the people, for the sake of the people of Greenland, but also for the sake of the national security interests of the United States of America.
Greenland is only unsafe from the United States of America. Like, how much more clear do we need to be, for God's sakes? Somebody says to you, we're going to take you over whether you like it or not. Do you feel safe? I wouldn't, because I'm not an idiot. Well, JD Vance, on the other hand, I know I say that word a lot, and I do. I need a new vocabulary, apparently. No, I need a new thesaurus. That's what I need. But when they are so breathtakingly arrogant and unaware of their arrogance and just how ridiculous they sound, it's enough to reduce you to tears, honestly. But we have an emotional support moment to get us through. Did you know this? I knew this. I mean, I think most people know this, but I don't think it's something to brag about. But some people might not, because I do think it's contraindicated. No, wrong word. It's counterintuitive. That's the word I was looking for. Penguins, despite their little flippers, are remarkable swimmers. Yeah, their wings were adapted into flippers. That's why they can't fly, for effective underwater propulsion. And I guess if you think about it, they're pretty streamlined, right? They also employ techniques such as porpoising, which is a great word, to swim swiftly and efficiently, which they need to do, because if you've ever seen the prey after them, wow, they need to be agile and fleet. So let's enjoy some of the footage in action. On land, not so much. In the water, poetry. That was awesome. That was a really beautiful footage. Hope you all enjoyed it. Took my heart rate down a little bit, I think. Yep. Yeah. Look at me. All right, let's get to your comments and questions. Wonder Cheryl, thank you as always. Much appreciated. Comment, Mary, thank you so much for everything you do and for helping us to keep our sanity in the middle of insanity. You are the sane and smart Trump. Well, thank you very much. The competition. I have one serious competition in those categories. I will not discuss, but it's none of the people you guys know about. So thank you for that. And you know what? We love doing this, and it keeps us. I was going to say sane. No, it keeps us from going less sane. So it's great to have this to look forward to every day, actually. So thanks, guys. Gabriel, wow, thank you very much for that. It's very generous. Comment and question. Most of corporate media protects Donald, and the general public doesn't tune in to independent sources. Yeah. I fear much of the country remains unaware of the damage being inflicted. Question, will media step up as incompetence escalates? I don't know. I mean, I think we've seen some shifts, particularly in the White House press corps. And I think that as things worsen, which they will do, corporate media is going to have a very serious choice to make. But that doesn't mean we should trust them and support them. They need to do their jobs, and they haven't. So they've been letting us down for at least a decade now. And, depending on how you count, it's a lot longer than that. So I do think that it is always going to be important, and increasingly so, to support independent media like Mary Trump Media. But there are a lot of other outlets too. So, spread the joy, because we will all be better off if independent media as a whole grows and becomes a real force in the media universe, because I think that's the future, and let's just embrace it. And maybe it will make what remains of corporate media better. Here's hoping anyway. Sorry. Hi, 77771. Hello, and thank you so very much as always. That's very generous of you. Question, 3-part. Good to know. I'm prepared. Wait, let me hydrate. Sorry, I'm a little thirsty watching those penguins. I mean, salt water, not the best thing to drink. All right. Question, do you remember the way America protested Great Britain's taxing of free America? Isn't this how the Tea Party Republicans started? Should we as Americans do this to our own government? Yes, I remember. And yes, it is how the Tea Party started. Not a grassroots thing. It was an AstroTurf thing. It was heavily funded by the Koch brothers and people like that. But still, yes, very coordinated, loud protests. And that was one of the first things that started shifting the Republican Party, because the Republican Party, led by one of the most vile people in American politics, Mitch McConnell, thought that he could use the Tea Party to gain more power. And what happened? Well, he lost control of the monster, and the Republican Party became the Tea Party, just as the Republican Party is now a party of fascism. We as Americans right now have our work cut out for us. And yeah, there should be protesting, but I also think at some point we are just going to have to shut all of this down. So we're keeping our eyes open for the opportunities and the strategies for doing so. Aaron, thank you very much. Welcome from Australia. Comment, MAGA is top left on the Dunning-Kruger chart. Yes, indeed it is. If you're looking at that XY axis, oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know what your axes are, but I'm having it at the stupidest and the least aware. They are way up there in that top left corner. Holy cow. And it's exhausting. Loves my dogs a lot. Thank you so much as always. That's great. Comment, dropping in just to say hi and thank you for keeping it real. I don't have anything stupid to say today. Well, then that's why you're here. Because you do not suffer from the Dunning-Kruger effect, or you wouldn't be here. Thank you. That's great. Jenny, thank you very much, Jenny. Comment, learned a new description for Donald. Yes, blatherskite. Great word. The definition, a person who talks at great length without making much, and I'm going to say parenthetically, if any, sense. Blatherskite. Because, there are words like blackguard that are way too good for him. It's a cool word. Blatherskite. Awesome. And it rhymes with shite. So we could get creative. Nancy, thank you very much, Nancy. Comment, the stories coming out of ICE concentration camps are horrific. Yes, they are. They're going to get worse. We need to prepare ourselves for this. Yeah, and we need to figure out how to take collective action, because I don't have much faith in the courts to the extent that, they don't seem to, they're not quick on their feet. Obviously, they're designed that way. And as I mentioned during the show, everything's going up with the corrupt supermajority of the Supreme Court. Illegitimate corrupt supermajority of the Supreme Court. And we're one of the main reasons we're here, like in the short term, is because of their horrific anti-American, anti-constitutional rulings, specifically when it has to do with the imperial presidency and presidential immunity. So it is all down to them. So good luck holding somebody they put above the law accountable. Hey, torturing brown people, it's an official act. I don't have to listen to you. Ashley, thank you so very much, Ashley. That's wonderful. Comment, I'm in Florida and I have people in my life who are at risk. I never thought I would be afraid to open my door. Yeah. Or treat trans clients, or worry I have no future. I feel all of this deeply now. Yes, and I'm very sorry. That's how you feel, but I'm not going to pretend that's not a reasonable way to feel. I mean, I don't know your specific circumstances, obviously, but I think many of us are in a situation where we should be worried and unfortunately afraid, which is why, especially in places like Florida and other very red places, because there's less infrastructure. So I think the best we can do under those circumstances is just find as many like-minded people as possible where we live. And if they're not in close proximity to you, then find other ways to connect and reach out. And hopefully this community gives you some solace. But I think we all need something more concrete in terms of the day-to-day stuff. So I hope you were able to have that or find it. And please stay safe. Want to pet that dog? Thank you very much. Question. Hey, Mary, do you have any pets? Love from friends. I love friends. Yes, I do. I have 2 cats. Lyndon is about 13 and Cap, who is 3. And we have a leopard gecko named Nemo. I don't know how old Nemo is because she is a rescue and she periodically goes on hunger strikes. It's a thing. Like, I have a beetle farm, so I grow the worms for her, and she's like, no, not interested. So when I can get her attention, I feed her baby food with an eyedropper. But right now, she's just like, leave me alone. And I don't know, she's been doing this for years. The first time I thought, oh my God, she's dying. She'd eat for 3 months, and then the next time it was 4, and then she wakes up and she eats 20 worms, which is fun for me. I'm a vegetarian, but she's still kicking, and she seems to be okay. I don't know, but she's awesome. She's quite adorable. Yeah, I'd like another kitten. Actually, I really would. I think Nemo is sort of a loner, so she seems to be fine. I just wish she ate more. Thank you for asking. His Divine Scadu, thank you very much. That's fantastic. Comment, the Donald regime in a nutshell. Quote, deceive, inveigle, obfuscate, unquote. Special Agent Dana Scully. Oh, yeah. X-Files. Yes. Inveigle and obfuscate, they're such Scully words. I had a cockatiel named Scully. Yeah. Love that show. Love Gillian Anderson. Henry. Thank you very much, Henry. Comment. Schadenfreude sometimes feel like karmic cleansing. Maybe it's the weather, but I feel something good is coming on the winds of change. Don't say the word winds out loud. Donald might hear you and freak out. You know what? I believe in Schadenfreude in many instances lately. I hope you're right, because we need something. We need something to change. Rather desperately. Indirect Hydrox, thank you very much for that comment. I keep waiting for Rod Serling to walk into my living room holding a lit cigarette. If only. If only. I mean, I kind of don't want him to be smoking. That didn't end well. And also I have asthma. But I miss him. We need a Rod Serling. That would be something else. Oh, what happened? Oh, I came to the end. So let me just thank a few super stickers. Hank the Skank, thank you very much. That's great. Mary, awesome. Thank you very much. It's very generous of you. And KJ Crafts, as always, thank you for showing up. That's fantastic. All right, guys, that does it for us tonight. As I said again, we made it, and that is no small thing. No small thing. So please, I hope you get to take some time off this weekend. It's been another long week, week 9. Holy cow. Just remember, we have Trump Trolls Trump dropping tomorrow. It's one of my favorite things to do in addition to the live. I'm not going to get into how much fun we had recording it today, because I almost got into some trouble. It took longer than it should have, shall we say. But definitely check it out. Thanks to everybody watching on YouTube, the dwindling number of people who are able to sift through the rubble over at Twitter to find us. Thank you for your efforts. To everybody over at my Substack, The Good at Us, for watching the live stream. I love having you guys here. For those of you who don't know, Substack is just a platform that hosts newsletters, and I have one called The Good in Us. It's where I write stuff instead of talk about it. And there's a great community over there that I think you would really enjoy. So check that out. And of course, anybody watching in the podcast, not watch. That is not what podcasts are. Sorry, everybody listening to the podcast. Yeah, it's Friday. I'm feeling it. And let's see, all of our super stickers and everybody giving us gifts. We so appreciate you all. And like we literally couldn't do this without you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It is so appreciated. And we really are trying to build this because, as I said earlier, independent media is the future. And we need to get to a point where we have a big enough platform to make more of a difference. And more importantly, to make sure that we're just get better and better and better at what we do for you guys. That is our mission. Okay, so to our moderators, of course, who help make this community as awesome as it is. I love this community, so thank you. And of course, to my amazing team for doing just seriously the yeoman's work. I mean, the tasks that are set them every day are Herculean, and I so appreciate their willingness to stay in it and create the amazing content they create. So thanks, guys, as always. I will be back Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for Ask Mary Anything Within Reason. So I hope you will join me there. And again, don't forget, we've got videos dropping over the weekend. Check those out. And we'll be back to our regular schedule next week. Mary Trump Live, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. We've got the Nerds Tuesdays. There might be some new scheduling, so I'll keep you posted about that on Sunday. And that does it for us. So have an amazing weekend. Chill out. Don't plug in too much if you don't have to. And I will see you Sunday. In the meantime, everybody, please stay safe and be kind.